Hello and welcome again to the Black Techies podcast, courtesy of the HBCU Digital Network. I'm your host, Herbert Seward, and joining me again today is another one of our core techies, Leslie Moore. Roberto Joseph and some of the other gangs should be on as we continue the show, but we're up in the batter's box, so we're going to be starting the broadcast off. Leslie, first, how was your week?
Busy.
How things going?
Super busy. The same issues. It's the same issues. They've just gotten bigger. But I'm a roll on.
Welcome, Roberto, our Morehouse man, our Morehouse grad. Welcome, bro. How's what's cracking, man? How's it going?
Oh man, another day, another half a dollar. The usual. Trying to go out here and just trying to make it through another week of not slapping nobody that deserves it. That's all. The usual.
No comment, man. No comment. Well, essentially, what we're going to do today, for those of you guys that are watching our podcast and listening, we're gonna take a bit of a broad world view of what's going on today, in some of the tech industries and in cybersecurity as it relates to Ukraine. And we're probably going to end the podcast with something fun. We're going to talk about our favorite tech, our favorite consumer tech that's out there. But I wanted to start out, Roberto. This first topic is near and dear to your heart. Roberto is our resident electric vehicle, Cybertruck type stuff enthusiast. So this first topic that we're going to talk about is going to we're taking a look at the electric vehicle industry in general, and where it's going. Why has it been so slow to adapt to technology? I mean, be quite honest with you. I mean, everybody. I don't know if there's anybody out there that ain't looking at a Tesla or Ocean or some sort of electric vehicle at this point, especially with Russia jacking up gas prices and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So what are y'all thoughts on that?
I'll start with Roberto.
Leslie, you want to go first?
I could go first. I currently have no vehicle, so gas prices is killing me just off of the Uber and Lyft side of things. So don't
Uber
think,
and Lyft. Ooh,
don't think you got it twisted. It got worse. But at the same time, I've ridden in a couple of electric vehicles and just talking to the drivers, it's a split view. Some people love it. Some people love that, they're not suffering the price at the pump. Some people hate it because prices at the house that went up with charging your car. So I've heard split reviews. Let's hear from the actual driver.
I will say that honestly, I love it. It's mixed for me only because this is I bought my first electric vehicle in January of 2017. So I've been at this for a minute, and I bought a Nissan Leaf that they were practically trying to give away at that point. I think I got it for maybe 12,000. It had 16,000 miles on it. So like I bought it I bought it right as December into January. And I called it a birthday gift for myself. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, man, for those who don't know Georgia, I bought it in Stone Mountain, and I had to drive across town. I had to drive across to the other side of Metro Atlanta, which everybody, like, if you don't know, like, Atlanta is just this big circle. Well, the highway goes around Atlanta, and if you want to go through it, you got to go through another thing. So I got to my house that first night, and I was like, okay, I bought the car. I test drove it. I thought it was cool. And I said, y'all going to charge it? And they were like, oh, no, we got to take it to another place to charge it because we ain't got no charger here. And I'm like, but y'all are selling electric cars here. So they had to take it to a dealership down the street to charge it. And I waited there for like an hour while me and the salesman were like chopping it up. Of course, I was like, you going to give me a free pen, I need a t-shirt, a Nissan hat, something you need to give me. and he dug in his desk, and I think he gave me like a keychain. It was like a metal leaf with like a Nissan logo on it. And I think I lost that keychain like the first week I had the car. So that was it. But I drove it home, and that first night I was like, this is stupid. This is the stupidest idea I've ever had. Because like mind you, my wife is driving off in her Nissan Maxima. She's taking off up the street, like going 60 miles an hour. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can keep up with her. And I start driving, and I'm looking down, and the battery percentage is like 89, 88, 87. And I'm like, whoa. And of course, it's January, so I got the heat on. I'm driving 70 miles an hour. So that's the downside of it. That was that first night where I had range anxiety. But after that, man, like once I got the hang of it, that car can get 70, 80 miles of range with the heat on in the wintertime. Because batteries supposedly work more efficiently, but the battery has to warm up, and the car it's a bunch of stuff that goes into effect to lower the mileage. My job is like 26 miles from my house. There's a charger at work. I get there at like 50%, usually because I'm driving like a normal person, because I know there's somewhere to charge when I get there. And a half tank of gas is like $1 for me. So, I plug it in, I go upstairs, I have breakfast, I go to my meetings, I get an alert to say to come unplug my car. I go downstairs and unplug it, and it deducts $1.50 from my account. Mm-hmm. And then I go park, and then at 2:00 when I sneak out of work, I get in my car and I drive back home at 100%. And
yeah, that thing.
I don't ever think about it. Every morning I wake up, I have 100% battery in my car. Now, my wife's car, we got her a Tesla last year right before the prices went up, and we got her a long range. So she has got like 400 miles of range, and we charge it up to like maybe 80% every night, or every couple of nights. Because now she just came back from driving all over God's country and was telling me, she's like, oh, my car's low. I only got 190 miles of range right now, so I need to charge it tonight. And I'm like, you sit here in my face with the audacity. I would need 3 cars to get there where you at, and you talking. But that's the thing about people don't understand, is that the car uses about as much. My car uses about as much electricity as a microwave. And over the course of like a month, I think we tracked it, and I think it may have went up $1, $3, $5, somewhere where it was so negligible that we kept looking at it. We had to ask our electric provider to tell us where it is, and they're like, oh, we'll just charge it after 11 o'clock. That's when it's like practically free, because after 11 p.m. It's the price of electricity is so low, it's a tenth of the price of electricity at 2 p.m. So I schedule the Tesla to charge at 11. I plug it in. The Leaf, I just have to go downstairs and plug it in at 11, but that's it. So from my perspective, it's very easy to say like, oh, no, that's too much. I don't want to do it. I don't even remember to plug my phone up and all that stuff that people usually say to me. But I mean, if you're stupid enough to have to go get gas in the morning, which I was that guy, I'm to tell myself that lie, I'm gonna go get gas in the morning. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
At the exact time that you need to get to work, and you like, I'm just gonna have to pray. We're gonna get to work with this gas light on. Like, I never have that problem. I wake up every morning with a full tank of gas.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. I know one of our other core members of the Black Techies, Ebony Burrows. She's not on today. She's a North Carolina A&T grad and resides in Charlotte. She's an Audi e-tron driver.
Yeah.
And essentially she loves that thing. She loves it. And it's just like right now, me and my family are seriously contemplating making that jump, because it's just like, okay, yeah, these gas prices are kind of jacking the brother up.
Look, we can do a whole show. Like, I just got a work truck for my separate business. I just got a work truck in February. And of course, right after I got it, in Georgia, gas went from like $2.60 to like $3.50 practically overnight. And I was just like, whoa, hey, what's this? What are you guys doing? And it took me a while to understand, like, I I have to now go get gas and stuff, which I've been driving for. I'm 38, so I've been driving for. Jesus, am I 30? I'm 37. Jesus, I've been driving since I was 15. I started driving. Gas was like 35, 45 cents, and I know I sound like I'm old, but I'm in Georgia. Again, California people, this doesn't apply to you. So like this is brand new territory to me all over again. And I just don't see how people are doing it. And they're looking at me like, man, you stupid. Like I couldn't drive no electric car. And when I drove my Nissan Leaf with 80 miles of range, 50 miles away to a customer's house with ladders and tools and extra TV mounts and stuff in it. And I got there at 20% and I had to struggle to like, okay, well, after I get out of here, I got to think about where I'm going. And I always just made sure wherever I'm going, I need to know where is there electric vehicle charging station around them. And I always found it. And I would go there, I'd plug my car up, and I'd go get a hamburger, and I'd sit in my car, and I'd watch Attack on Titan on my phone, and I'd plug my car up, and I would sit there.
There you go.
And, I'd be there for 15 minutes to get my car from 20% to 90%, and it would be like $5. So people tell me like I can't do that. Like, would you rather spend $50 for 3 minutes of time of you putting gas in your car, or would you rather spend $5 and take a break and eat and relax and wait for your car to charge? Now, if you work in Uber Eats and you got to be somewhere, I don't suggest that's a good idea for you, because my burrito cold, when you bring it to my house, we're going to have some problems. But for everybody else that's just driving from point A to point B, and for people to say like, well, that's a privileged item, like I can't afford an electric car. You could have been had an electric car. Like you want to buy a $50,000, $60,000 sports luxury sedan that takes premium gas, that only gets 15, 20 miles a gallon, and you still got to get oil changes, and you still got to buy gas. You spending more money than you would spend on a Tesla. If you got a Model 3, and you definitely spend more money than I spent on this Leaf. The whole 5 years I've had it, I bought a set of tires and I bought 2 sets of windshield wipers. That's it. I don't have windshield wiper fluid in it because I don't even bother looking in the hood because I don't have to. So I'm spoiled now. And I would say that now going into this brave new frontier of everybody and their mama got an electric car, when you see something like a Hummer EV and you know like that's peak America, like this is me waving my red, white, and blue flag and kicking you tree huggers in the nuts and driving up a mountain, and it's like you can hear the Simpsons Canaro, that theme song where it's like it's 3 lanes wide, saying like 1 mile a gallon, and you're like that makes you a man because you got a big truck that kills the environment. Cool. But the Hummer looks dope. I mean, It starts at like I think 110 or something is the starting price. Which once dealerships get a hold of it, it'll probably jack that up to 150. That's what they did with the Tesla Plaid. Saying it's like the sticker on it was supposed to be like 108, and they're selling that thing for 200,000 in some places here in Atlanta, and they can because somebody will buy it. But again, people, you don't have to buy it. You there, person who is using someone else's Netflix password because you can't afford the $15 a month. Shut up. That's not for you. So like go somewhere else. You can go on CarMax right now and look for an electric car. And there's a bunch of electric cars on there that are under 50 grand. There's under 30 grand. I mean, if you're willing to buy a super used one, you can probably find one that's less than 20 like I did. But I mean, of course, now that you want one, and you're like, oh, I don't like it. It looks ugly. Either you're going to buy one that's practical or you're going to buy one that's pretty.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing, for Black folk in general, in terms of just getting caught up on, and embracing the technology, is that, the Tesla, people like the Tesla simply because there's a modicum of an aesthetic cool factor that goes along with it.
It's sexy.
Exactly. And it's like, you're kind of starting to see that trend in the market now with some of the newer cars coming to the market in the American market. Like the Fisker, I saw the Fisker Ocean and I was like, okay, that's kind of dope. Fisker Ocean, the Hummer
Boosted Air.
Yeah, the Boosted Air.
The Ford F-150 Lightning just looks like an F-150. The Silverado E just looks like a Silverado. Like they're starting to get away from, I got to make this car look like a foot so somebody understands that it's good for the environment.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the GM EV1 that they brought out in the 90s, that thing looked terrible. It was ass. Excuse my French, but it was complete cheeks. Complete cheeks. There's no way that no one's going to get that. And people say like, well, I don't want that because I want to be able to do this and do that. I'm gonna look y'all right in the face. I'm gonna look y'all right in the face and tell y'all this. I know you Atlanta people, all you Hellcats, the Z06s, the Rumblebees, every car that you have, I have a family sedan that smokes that shit every time without me trying. A family sedan that I can put an entire 6 foot tall mirror in. Okay. And I don't have to put gas in it. I don't get no oil changes. And it looks better than yours when it's standing still too. So all them people that's like, now the hatchback, the Leaf, I ain't gonna say nothing to you about that. Like 0 to 10, you ain't gonna catch me. But after like 15 miles an hour, we even see. I would challenge somebody that's a car guy who, like me, this Leaf, actually, I'm sorry, the Ford truck that I have now, that's my 18th car that I've owned. And I'm a big time car guy, like take all the cars apart myself, my bare hands that I've always bought. And there's nothing more exhilarating. I've owned all type of stuff, like supercharged BMWs, turbocharged Subarus. I've owned all that stuff. I will tell you this, that Tesla is not even the fast one. It's the long range one. That's the fastest car I've ever driven. Ever. And whatever you've ever driven, if you go test drive that car, it will make you look stupid. I promise you. You're going to be in the car, and you've seen the videos with the plaid launches. I think we've all seen those things where they show somebody like, hey, let me show you something that the car can do. And then they do the thing and they're launching the back of the seat. That happens like every red light. So like, I would tell you this, go and find a electric vehicle that fits your budget first. Find what your budget is first and foremost, then find an electric car that fits your budget, then go test drive it before you make up your preconceived notions about like what you do and don't want, because you can complain about gas being high all day long. But like, when I don't like somebody, I stop dealing with them. And, like, yes, that's a position of privilege that I can buy an electric car. But remember, when I bought an electric car, people were like, that's a stupid idea. And this was 5 years ago. And it was cheap. I think like I could have paid off that electric car with like a couple of like extra nights of overtime over the course of 5 years. Not like I got my overtime ain't hitting like that. So I ain't gonna say I just had like 10 bands just like waiting for me when I hit overtime. But we're at the point now where I think we can do that. Like we can have that conversation about I want form and I want function. And everybody, all the car makers, Audi, I mean, if you see the Mercedes EQS, it's more function than anything, but like there's some sexy electric cars out there. Even the Kia EV6, the Hyundai Ioniq, I mean, they are churning out left and right.
Yeah, even that debacle that Ford put out, in the shell of a Mustang is appealing to a certain demographic.
The Mustang, there's probably, every time I go plug my car up at work, there's 4 or 5 of those there now that wasn't there before. It was just me and a couple of other nerds that had our little Leafs lined up in a row. And now there's all these Mach E's and Volkswagen ID4s and all this stuff. And fastest car in the world. And you consider like that's high praise. 1,024 horsepower in a 5-seater family, and you can actually play The Witcher in the back seat while the person in the front seat is driving. The system in the car now, our car is older, and I can still play, like there's Cuphead in my car. I can plug my PlayStation 4 controller in there and play it, and it runs pretty good. Netflix, Disney Plus, all that stuff while I'm waiting for the car to charge. So like there's options. It's a tech for you to be a techie who likes cars, and you think that it's a better idea to get a Mustang 5.0 and then just put an Android Auto or Apple CarPlay radio in it. No,
Nah.
By the time the end of the year, you will have paid more money. And I understand that because I used to have a BMW 540 at the height of right after Katrina, and all you people in Atlanta was over there buying all the premium gas up at $4 a gallon and wouldn't leave me none, and putting it in your mom's minivan. I ain't forgot y'all.
Man, I'm gonna say this, man. As a Volkswagen owner, I own a Passat. I'm pretty pedestrian. 2015 Passat 4-door sedan. Typical family. Yeah, it's a nice car. But from a gas perspective, it's not a nice car. and I think the biggest thing that people are really kind of apprehensive about the technology at this point is a lack of infrastructure. I think to me, that's the biggest thing. I think that's not necessarily just in terms of charging stations and things of that nature, but in terms of battery technology, having a true solid state battery, power source to go with some of the vehicles, what have you. And I mean, I'll be honest, man, either way, even with the limitations, the brother's like, yo, I'm just waiting for the price drop so I can hit Carvana or something and pick up a vehicle.
That's the hard part. Now the prices are going up because everybody's looking for them. And a dealer's like the price we bought my wife's car for last year, I would have to put another 10 grand on top of that to buy a car with more miles and older. The prices went up like big time. Fat Joe was telling them about yesterday's price not being today's price, and they listen. They listen like a mofo because it's definitely that time where in the infrastructure thing again, I am 100% proud of Ford for saying we're going to make these cars, but we're also going to put in a charging network that looks exactly like the Tesla supercharger. Because I know I can drive from Georgia to California right now in that Tesla, and it would probably add another 2 hours of me stopping and getting charged and stuff to go there. Maybe more than that, probably like another 4 hours. But I could make it without any gas, and the car would route me through all them things.
Yeah. Real quick, my girlfriend has called in from Mexico. And she was photobombing our podcast, so she is about to be on the podcast right now. Say hello, Shalonda.
I can't hear you guys.
Yeah. Now while her man is over here slaving, she's wrecking it up in the Yucatan in Mexico. So yeah.
Black Lives Matter.
Baby, I can't hear you.
Exactly.
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
Equality? I can't. You said equality.
What was that?
Equality. What's that about? Yeah, what's that about?
You're breaking up.
Bye, babe.
I didn't hear
it. Yeah, she's having a blast, man. Now that diversion has been established, because I'm gonna be going to my.
She's doing you like Congress did us last summer,
bruh.
Like, I hear you. I don't hear. What you said? You want equal rights?
What's that? As
you want cheaper flights?
Yeah.
Delta, lower the price of flights.
As she sips on her margarita and eats her steak. But yeah, I think ultimately, I mean, as infrastructure gets better, and I think the global influence of EVs now, particularly in Europe and in the Far East, is having a real impact because you're starting to see those things really take hold. I mean, they've already taken hold in places like Sweden, Norway, China, obviously, because of a lot of because of the population demands there, Japan. You're going to see a lot of that, and it's something that, to be kind of honest with you, it's coming. It's just a matter of, of us embracing it. And, I mean, just like you said, there's going to be a portion of the audience, of the American public that's not going to embrace it because, He-Man, Hemi, car, gas, guzzle, that,
Gotta be.
yeah, I mean, it's going to, it's going to take a minute, and that minute might end up, being a threshold in terms of something, ecological and environmental happening. Like, for example, like what's going on in Ukraine right now with this crisis, and what, Comrade Vladimir is kind of doing his thing. But yeah, it's crazy, but I know me personally, a brother's got his eye on that Fisker Ocean. The Fisker Ocean is kind of nice. I'm kind of, I'm still mad at Ford putting out that pseudo Mustang and calling it an electric vehicle. That was just horrible.
Because when they first announced the Mustang Mach-E, it was a Mustang. It looked exactly like a Mustang, and they just threw an electric chassis. Threw an electric drivetrain in it, and they were like, "This is the render for it." And then they were like, "You know what? You know what's selling like crazy? The Model Y. The Model Y is selling like crazy. We should make something like the Model Y," which is why now you see most of these car makers like Hyundai, like Kia, like Honda, all of them, like, we're going to make a crossover, and then of course Ford was like, hell, we're Ford. We can do that. We should do that. Yeah, let's just make a crossover that's, you can throw your skis in it and go to the mountains if we had charging to go there.
Yeah,
I don't know what their actual plan was, but I could just tell it's from market. The market is dictating that everybody makes a little crossover, because like my hatchback, like I said, has been fantastic, but it's also the cheapest Leaf that they made. It doesn't even have Bluetooth like connection in it. I still have an aux plug thing that I have to plug into it. So that's night and day versus the other stuff. But I pre-ordered a Cybertruck. I put my money down. So we'll see what happens when 2023 January, when they start actually building them. We'll see what it looks like, because right now it don't look like what it looked like in a year ago when they announced it, or 2 years ago when they announced it.
Well, really quick, Arns, we're going to take a little bit of an ad break here, and then we'll be back with the rest of our show. Stay tuned.
Yeah, baby, you know what time it is. Now let's get it started. Are you kidding me? Unreal!
While our HBCUs are mostly known for academic rigor, community, they also know how to turn up.
Does he have it? Yes, he does! And that might be the knockout punch.
All right, and we're back. Thank you to our HBCU Digital Network overlords for that ad break. We appreciate it. We'll take note of that as we continue the show and we get more ad breaks. So yeah, we're doing what we're supposed to do. Speaking of Ukraine, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's from what I've seen on the interwebs and social media and just in general following, the events over there. I've noticed that Black folk have, a lot of mixed feelings about the conflict and about, its impact, and, we're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to put that angst aside for a second and take a look at some of the tech things some of the tech intersection that's come with that conflict. That's kind of caused what's been going on. As a veteran myself, there's a lot of things cyber related that has really been an eye opener. One, the Russians, in terms of technical or communications and tech expertise in terms of integration in military, we found out that they absolutely suck and they're vulnerable to hacking like everybody else. If anybody is familiar with, some of the military tech that we're talking about in terms of encryption and technology and communications, essentially the Russians are running 3G, and not only are they running 3G, but they're running unencrypted communications along those same cellular networks. And the Ukrainians are like, oh, we could hack this. and I hate to kind of put this in a really light frame because war is heavy anyway. It's a heavy deal. There's nothing funny about it. But from a tech perspective, it's kind of wild that you're supposed to be a superpower and you're running around with flip phones that don't have 3G. And you're running around with communications that you got to rely on your enemy's cell phone towers to communicate with with the military. Ultimately, besides those sorts of things, I think the entire conflict itself has kind of forced the rest of the world to take a look at specific things technology-wise, specifically cybersecurity. And I know people in our country haven't really taken this seriously, or at least as serious as they should, in terms of the threat, in terms of the threat to to our general infrastructure, our banking systems, education, healthcare, all of that is interconnected. It's on the web, and it's something that you got some really good minds that are really bad at doing bad stuff, on that side of the fence. And I wanted to get you guys' opinion on it.
Now, for me, when it comes to like the lower signal, I can understand them using like a 3G or a 2G signal only because one, less data transmission, less things getting picked off. It's easy to hack, but how much real information you're getting from that lower quality.
Yeah.
So I could see that aspect of it. And then at the same time, it's still like you can easily reroute some of this around as needed just because of the technology and this little bitty packets. It's not a whole lot. But even from our end with cybersecurity, I'm still a little concerned that our entire electoral process was kind of borrowed a couple years ago. That's all I'm saying about that. It was borrowed by the same people going through using 3G right now. So I'm saying they're shifting their money more to we want to know more about what everyone else is doing as opposed to we'll save the scraps for ourselves is what it's looking like if you think about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of, to be quite honest with you, I look at specific, industries that have to make that a priority, like, power and, and energy industries. To me, frankly, that stuff scares me because if I can go to somebody's nuclear power plant and find out that their control processes are run by some simple ass Linux, OS that ain't hardened, as a hacker, I'm like, yeah. The
Apocalypse start.cmd.
Exactly. Pardon my language, but that type of shit scares me. It scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, quite frankly, we don't take seriously because we don't have a lot of people in positions of leadership that don't have the big, even the most remote semblance of being, I don't even want to say tech savvy, but I want, understanding how important technology is in the bigger scheme of things in terms of our interconnectivity and in terms of, just how important it is globally, some of the stuff that we've seen during the conflict, it's eye-opening. And it's not necessarily just in terms of the threat that those things, those immediate things offer, not just the United States, but other nations. Social media, the news cycle. This is the first conflict that I've seen that has been, how can I put it? That's been fully integrated into the 24-hour news and social media cycle.
That's not where I thought you were going with that, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going there too. I'm going there too. And I think for Black folk, and this is where I'm going with it. For Black folk, it's, how are we supposed to feel about it? And I think that's the, on one end, you don't want to see anybody else going through a lot of the things that people go through in war-torn countries. But real talk, Ukraine ain't the first.
It's not going to be the last either.
Not going to be the last. And, some of the folks that have been through this sort of thing, have a little bit more in common with us than we realize. And I think a lot of times when, we're forced to, kind of take a moral equivalency when we look at stuff like this. African Americans in general, we always have to weigh that. We always have to weigh, oh, okay, well, this is really, really bad. However, we've seen some pretty bad shit that's, the equivalent ain't, just pump your brakes for a minute, Like I said, as a veteran, my viewpoint is a little, I try to keep a balanced viewpoint because part of me is just like that. It's like, look, we done some really messed up type of stuff. In other parts of the globe in terms of in relationship to other countries and other cultures. On the same vein, what your boy Uncle Vladimir is doing is that's some it's like he just picked up a book on Stalin and read it and just like, oh, let me try this. So I mean it's the whole situation from just the moral and global perspective is already kind of jacked up. From a technology perspective, it's forcing people to really think about a lot of things that as Americans we're behind the curve on. Some places in the globe are way ahead of the curve, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity and it comes to protecting your assets, your markets, your infrastructure, all of that stuff. That's a real threat. And I think that's something that, that's worth talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that it's a little frustrating hearing how they're reporting the news, and I try to ignore that as much as I can. But I am like 100% like happy that Airbnb is trying to find people shelter, and the Reface app is sending like updates, like push notifications to tell like, hey, here's where it's safe, here's where it's not safe. NFTs, crypto, I think they raised like $13 million in crypto money in like a week or two, the Ukrainian government to try and for aid and stuff. And I think technology has really helped kind of say like, hey, this isn't cool and this is what we're doing and this is how we're trying to fix things. And here's what you can do immediately right now today. But it's kind of weird just hearing them say like, man, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to any like established nation. Like we're kind of used to brown people going through this, but I mean, look at these.
Exactly.
How dare they do this? And I'm like, but y'all doing it to each other. So like, before y'all come to me with some black on black violence, I better check that mirror. Okay, bro.
Yeah.
Y'all, it's not like that's a whole lot of like that's a lot of white on white violence in there that's going on.
Yeah,
and
and
not to reduce it to anything racial, but I think it's very odd how they've positioned it and how everybody has jumped to kind of help this. And every other week we're like, did you know that the De Beers company is still chopping off children's limbs so they can get diamonds, which aren't actually in short supply? They're in plenty of supply. They're just hoarding it to push up the global index. No. Well, did you see that one building that got blown up in Ukraine? That's crazy, right? Like, there might have been a kid in there.
yeah,
And we do that kind of like whataboutisms that I don't normally like, but I do want people to still be responsible when they're reporting the news. I ain't got to be responsible about Jack until I get on this platform. When it's just me or Roberto and I'm speaking about something, usually I'll speak about it from a lens that it's things that I care about, like the woman that stabbed her black boyfriend a bunch of times, and people are like, "Oh, he got killed, but he was talking crap about black women." And I heard about that from social media. I didn't hear about that from the news. Like, there's a lot of violence that goes on that gets swept under the rug because usually the victim and the assailant aren't in the right pattern. They need to be swapped around. Unless now, if it's a white assailant and that white assailant has a badge, that's going to make for great news. That's going to divide the country in half. But if the white assailant is just a regular civilian, then no, nobody wants to hear about that because we're assuming that black or brown person did something to deserve it. But when it comes to war and people invading and people doing all this crap, like, I don't think there's ever a clear right or wrong when it comes to things until you have some jerk like handing out war crimes like it's candy, and trying to top himself every week about doing something stupid. And the last dude that was in office, that's his homeboy. They probably, go pick up underage girls together. But, what do I know?
yeah, I'll be honest, man. The news that came out this week in regards to some of the stuff that they've been accused of now in terms of war crimes is that's some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about the news cycle is that now you're seeing they're not pulling any punches in terms of the graphic nature of what's being shown in terms of warfare. There was earlier in coverage on CNN in the conflict. I noticed one day I was working, and I was happy to catch the news while I was working, and the interview was essentially, the segment was essentially, oh, well, this is disturbing for viewers, so you might want to, be careful, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And you're literally live streaming a cluster bomb strike, mm-hmm. in Mariupol that, I remember looking at it and you had the family on the other one side of the street, for 1 second, and then a boom and a cloud of dust later, that family is gone. And it's just like, wow, dude, this is what we're really showing on. They're not really, and this is not necessarily, I can't call it a bad or a good thing, but the fact that the byproduct of how we cover news and the technology that we use to do it, is really, really big. It's changed a lot in terms of how we perceive a lot of things. And for us as African Americans, I'll be the first one to say it. I think we've become desensitized to a lot of stuff, mm-hmm. And I think that's something that that's not going to go away anytime soon. It's not,
and it's very hard to be dehumanized for generations, and then see the overwhelming support someone else gets, and you're like, I just wanted like half of that. Like, I didn't even ask for, and and it comes off like hate. You know what I mean? Like when the Stop Asian Hate bill went in and got signed in like 5 minutes, all the black people were like, how'd y'all do that? Y'all ain't march, y'all ain't tearing, like y'all ain't have to do nothing. Y'all ain't got no Asian MLK that came out there and gave a speech. When no hoses, when no dogs, y'all just asked for it and y'all got it. And we're like, dang, okay. Well, All right, well, at least someone else is protected. That's cool. And then the Ukraine
cool.
thing happens, and then everybody's pouring money, and everybody's like, "Hey, we want to just make sure we stop the violence, and we're doing this stuff." And we like, can we stop the violence here first?
Yeah,
Can
fam.
y'all stop shooting people for a second? Well, you can't be doing the same. You can't be on the. You can't have a Ukraine flag over your profile picture where you have a Blue Lives Matter ring at the same time for me, because you either for violence or you not. Like you gotta pick a struggle. Like I don't want to see no doves of peace on your NRA t-shirt. You gotta pick a struggle.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing for a lot of us is that the lens of our experience here in this country, dominates a lot. It colors a lot, and it colors a lot, within the borders of the United States and outside of it. So it's like, it's kind of sometimes it's hard to forget, to remember to look at things through, to not look at things through that lens at times.
Yeah.
Most times it's necessary,
Mm-hmm.
and while we're talking about Ukraine, I'm going to segue here a little bit because I would be remiss to not mention, the historic nature of an event that happened this week, and that was the first Black woman on the Supreme Court of Justice. Take a bow, Ketanji, take a bow. And just on this little segue, man.
You calling her by a first name basis, like auntie?
Yes, auntie. Because that's to be quite honest with you, if you watched the confirmation hearings and stuff, that's kind of how you felt, and I'm gonna be real here real quick, for the Mitch O'Connells and the Leslie Grahams and the Tom Cottons of the world and your constituents. Yeah, I'm talking to y'all. Y'all consider, you folks that put these milksops in the office. It was that even. That was one of the worst looks that there could have been for American politics to see these clowns. And I use that term loosely because there was really nothing funny about,
and
some
clowns are skilled.
Yeah,
By the way.
they aren't.
You make people laugh or you terrify people.
Yeah, they aren't. And it's crazy to really, sit down and watch portions of that confirmation. And, on one end, you see somebody, with obviously, mad qualified for the position that she's applying for, to a fault. I think she's probably, the most qualified judge, on the bench when she takes her spot there, just because of the nature of her background and her experience. Just to juxtapose that with some of the stuff that we saw coming from, the Leslie Grahams and the Tom Cottons of the world, and it's just like, okay, damn. How did these guys get into office? Not only that, how do their constituents, how do their colleagues deal with these guys on a regular basis?
Because those constituents are regular guys that treat Leslie like that on a regular basis. She's smarter than all of them, more qualified than all of them. They pay her less and they treat her like poop because she's a Black woman. And I'm not going to speak for Leslie.
Keep flirting if you want to.
Because I was about to say that's a hell of a segue, bro. I'm gonna have to use that.
I'm just saying, I know already from talking to Leslie for 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she tells us about her experience at work, and I'm like, okay, so that sounds like every woman of color's experience in a tech field. I mean, hell, even where you go to a hospital and the overwhelming majority of the people that work there are women, you still have that one doctor that just got out of med school like 3 weeks ago. And he's like, excuse me, nurse, that's about to retire. You've been doing this for your whole life. I think I know who needs a tourniquet and who doesn't, okay? Why don't you just... It's just the condescension that is inherently ingrained in the culture of misogyny. So like I saw it happening again, and I wanted to get up there, and I was like, you know what? If there was a time to walk up somewhere and smack somebody, this would be the time. This would be the perfect time.
Man, look, if there was any venue where that would have been worthy of Will Smith coming out the audience and smacking the sonic rings out of somebody, that would probably have been that confirmation.
I just wanted the Stone Cold Steve Austin music to come on and a glass to break, and then Jared would be like, "There it is, the Texas rattlesnake," and then here comes like some random
Stone Cold,
just came here and just like hit Mitch McConnell with a steel chair. And then like somebody tosses him a beer and he cracks it open, just pours it on him, and then runs back out.
Man,
Roberto's old. He's like talking about 90s wrestling. But that's what I wanted. That's all I wanted. I just wanted somebody to hit him with a steel chair, and then JR be like, "By God, he's broken in half."
Yeah, I can dig that, man. And for those folks who are viewing, we're dating ourselves somewhat. We're talking about some of these references. You're going to hear a lot of that in the future, particularly when we talk about technology and games and gaming and what we used to play. You're talking about folks that played Half-Life. I can hear people in the audience like, "What's Half-Life?" Or
there's no way don't Half-Life 2. Don't worry about that. Best joke ever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like,
what's that about?
How do you not know what this is?
That doesn't look like Fortnite. It's Half-Life, But
I feel old just because I refuse to play Fortnite because my son is like, Fortnite, Roblox, like, you got to play these, Dad. And I'm like, nah, I'd rather be called the N-word by people my own age on Xbox Live. Thanks, but no thanks.
Well, speaking of which, that's a good segue into our last little fun little topic, which is consumer technology, or more importantly, your favorite consumer technology that's out. So I'm going to let y'all go first because I got some thoughts.
It's my phone. I'm not gonna lie. I got the Samsung Z Flip 3 phone. Love this damn thing. Love everything about it. Like, let me pop the little case off so you can actually see it. I got the cream colored one.
Ooh. MKBHD is disappointed you have a case.
Wow.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It's shiny.
It really is shiny. Hold on. My screen, my blue screen, my green screen is killing it. What's funny is my background is green. It's a SpongeBob character going nope. So that's why
Nope.
you couldn't see it. But like, I got mine set up personally with the Microsoft launcher on it, so I can put everything in folders, and you can bend it, and the screen doesn't have that bad of a glare normally. I haven't even used. I think out of everything I use, maybe 30% storage filled, and that's with games, apps, all the social media apps. I've not had a problem with this phone since I've had it since December. Like, I haven't had any problems with the screen. You would think, opening and closing the screen, you'd have all kinds of creases and stuff. You really, like, if I lock it, it doesn't have that big of a crease as you would expect.
I mean, and when it's on, I'm sure it's not really noticeable.
And if you fold it in half, you can actually still use the top and the bottom half of the screen. Like the bottom half, if I'm listening like to Spotify, it'll turn into the play button, back and forth skip button, and then you can see the album at the top part. Still just cool. Usable. I don't forget it. It feels like my wallet, so I don't lose it anywhere. If I drop it, usually it's closed, so I'm not dropping it on the crack the screen. This is my favorite piece of technology right now. That my gaming PC, but that's different. That could be a show by itself.
Mental note.
Yeah, let Leslie go off for 20 minutes about her laptop. I mean, about her gaming rig.
Like, what you not gonna do is insult my baby, sir.
Apologies.
It gets me through.
Well, no, I'm gonna let you go, Roberto, because I know you. I mean, You've been coming through in the clutch with consumer tech.
I have, like, I'm in my consumer tech room right now, and I'm trying to think, like, what is my favorite? I love these things that I'm wearing. These are cool. The what you call it? Pixel Buds. Jesus, I had to think about it for a second. These are dope. My PlayStation, but I think right now, in light of the fact that we were just having that conversation, every time I get in my gas truck, I'm mad. And I'm just like, I want to get back in my electric car, but I know I can't drive all around and do all the stupid stuff that I want to do. And it gives me the freedom to actually do that when I have free time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pretend like I'm rich, and I'm just going to go for a drive. I'm going to go to one place, go there and eat, and then go to another place and go have a drink with my wife, and then go to a third place and go just walk around and look at stuff. You know, like we used to back in the day, back when gas was still like less than $1.
Bruh, that's like the Stone Age now.
Yeah. But I think like my favorite piece of tech right now would have to be the electric cars that we have. It definitely come through in a clutch. And I mean, not only is it my wife's electric car is the nicest car that we own. And it's fun to be in there, and the technology and all the stuff. Like I can say like, hey, Tesla, I'm kind of cold. It turns the heat up. I can ask Tesla to like open the front or open the butthole, and it opens the charger. I don't know why they thought that was a good joke, but you know,
where's that disclaimer at?
You know, like that's Elon Musk's sense of humor. Like there's always something stupid. Or like you could say like I need more cowbell, and it'll turn the screen into like Rainbow Road, and it'll play the and it's just loud cowbell playing through the speakers. It's hilarious. Like it's such a cool piece of technology, and it also like when you're sitting every time we go somewhere, somebody comes up to us and says, I don't want to bother you, but I'm like, you want to ask a question about the car? They're like, yes, please, dear God. Like, do you like it? Like, what do you have to do to it? Like, do I have to charge it like at a place? Do I have to take it to Georgia Power and let them charge it? Like, how do I do that? And like, what do you have to? There's a bunch of questions, and it's always like good icebreaker. My wife is funny because she's always like somebody always tries to race her, and she always tells me not to drive it fast. But then as soon as she's by herself, you know how that goes. But
I had to run that disclaimer one more time.
Yeah, I know. I see it. I see it down there. But no, like that's my favorite piece of tech. Like out of everything that I own, and this is a very close second. Like I love this little. This is the regular Pixel for people who are middle class. You know, like I'm not like her and have the. I don't have the budget to get the nicer one. But
yeah, I ain't gonna front. It's like my Pixel 5 right now is giving me life with the update because brothers is fighting temptation serious in terms of not jumping over to the Pixel 6. But folks that have followed this podcast for a minute know that I'm a big stickler for consumer technology that is cost effective, and one of the things outside of my Skull Candy earbuds that come through in the clutch, like on a regular daily basis for my audiobooks and everything else, I'd have to still say my cloud account on the Shadow Cloud platform gaming is my favorite piece of consumer technology. And for those folks out there that aren't familiar with what Shadow is a company that does virtual gaming in the cloud, PC level, AAA type of title style gaming in the cloud. They're the equivalent of what GeForce Now and NVIDIA are doing with their infrastructure and stuff like that. I've been running these guys for it's been 2 years now, 2 or 3 years now since I first mentioned it, since they first came out. If you're on the East Coast or the West Coast and you're close to a data center, you are in business, son. You're in business. I mean, instead of having a full-fledged PC, high-end PC You just have it in the cloud, and you can pretty much run it on any hardware that you got. I think I'm running. I tested out. I switch hardware like every month or so, just to test stuff out. Right now, I think I'm running it on an old AMD quad core Radeon processing laptop platform right now, and it games like I'm running a 5 or 6 or 7 core i7, with the top of the line video card. It's ridiculous. It's a really, really good platform. This is not a shill type of advertisement deal, because they ain't breaking me off any change. This is just something that I find a lot of enjoyment in. Outside of that, I would say a piece of technology that I don't even have yet, and that goes by the name of the Steam Deck. Those of us that have been anxiously waiting for the quarter to drop so we can get our Steam Decks and experience gaming and portable PC gaming on that level.
And I'm so hyped about that right now. I'm top of it. But quarter 2 people are lucky. I'm quarter 3. So
yeah, I still ain't got no notification yet. So we might be getting ours at the same time.
Looks like Christmas.
Yeah,
I'm quarter 3, so I'm looking at Christmas.
But with that being said, we have come to the end of another episode of the Black Techies podcast. For those of you guys that have joined us on Twitch, Facebook, the HBCU Digital Network platform, on their website, YouTube, thank you. Pass the word. We're always looking, to bring really good content to our audiences. We can also be found on pretty much any place that does audio podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, you name it. The episode 67 and 68 will be released on those platforms forthwith. Until next time, for Roberto and Leslie Moore, I'm Herbert Seward. Hail Wakanda.
Hail Wakanda.
Hail Wakanda.
Yeah, baby, you know what time it is. Now let's get it started. Are you kidding me? Unreal!
While our HBCUs are mostly known for academic rigor, community, they also know how to turn up.
Does he have it?